Hey everyone, so I made a video more than a year ago now about how you can connect your TR8, Roland's TR8 drum machine to your DAW as its own audio interface. So I'm using the Reaper DAW. You can do this on anything, so I'll just call this the interface test. And there's a few things I want to achieve here. I could plug in my TR8 machine to a different audio interface, and I could get a stereo signal out of the back of it from the output. But what I want to do here instead, I'm going to create 14 tracks. I'll just explain why in a second. That was only 9. So let's get 14 tracks here, and I'm going to select them all. And now I'm going to I'll arm them first. So they should be detecting some sort of output, but you know what? The output right here is actually coming from a different audio interface. So I'm going to go to my system preferences, into my devices, and see here Steinberg UR44. That's a different interface. I'm going to select the TR8. As long as your TR8 is on and you've got it connected via USB to the back of your computer, it should show up as a selectable device. So I'll say OK. And see there's no more signal coming through, because the signal you saw a minute ago was actually from a microphone. The reason I've selected all of these tracks at once is because I want to have track 1 recording from input 1. I want to have track 2 recording from input 2, and so on all the way down to track 14 recording from input 14. So I will select the input, and since all of my tracks are selected, I can go down to say assign inputs sequentially. 14 mono inputs, 1 to 14. I'm going to click that, and now you can see that track 1 is recording from input 1, and so on, track 2 from input 2 all the way down to track 14. So I've got my TR8 set up, and if I press start, so this is a 4/4 beat, really straightforward. You can actually see that track 1 is the master left signal, and track 2 is the master right signal. And I'll just stop that for a second. The master left and the master right are actually, well, they are going to give you your stereo recording track if you want to just take that and use it for something later on. Down here, we're going to have track 3 is the kick, track 4 is the snare, and so on. All of the rest of these are different drum bits that are going to be coming through so that you can record them separately and edit them separately, so you don't have to mix your kick and snare together on one track, which you would not really want to do for obvious reasons. The very bottom track is actually not a drum, it's the external input. And so there is an external input that you can plug something in, stereo or mono, to the back of the TR8, and I am using the corresponding synth, the S1 by Roland, which was released at the same time as the TR8, along with a few other devices. They were all called IRA, the IRA series. So anyways, as long as you can plug something in with a 1/4 inch patch cord, mono or stereo, then the TR8 will accept it as an external input instrument. So if I go back and just hit this beat again, and you can see here, I don't know if you can see, but I'm at 84 beats per minute. So I'm just going to go down in here in my DAW and say, okay, 84 beats per minute, and it's 4/4. Stop that again. I'm going to turn my metronome on. 2, 3, 4, start. And I can turn my metronome off now. That was just sort of a cue for myself so that I could hear when to press the record button. I'm going to stop that now. Stopped the recording, and I've stopped the playback from the TR8. Now, I probably haven't started that beat exactly on. No, I haven't. But what I can do is just take my snap and turn it off. See, if the snap's on, then when I go to move this bar, it's only going to move it from one bar to the next bar. and not anywhere in between. And when I say bar, I guess I should be more specific and say whatever the next unit over in quantized time as part of the grid, it's going to just move it over to the next possible spot, whether it's a quarter note or an eighth note, but it's going to keep it on the grid. So I want to take the snap off so that I can really zoom in and say, okay, I want to have this start exactly right here. And now I can just turn the snap back on and split those, delete them. Now when I select all of these bars here, I can just drag it right back to the beginning of the song. Now if I zoom in anywhere, you can see, well, I haven't done a perfect job of it, but if I had spent a couple more seconds, I could have gotten this to line up exactly onto the grid. Anyways, let's delete those. And I don't want to delete the whole track. I just want to delete the recordings. I'm going to start this again with the metronome on. I'll start recording first. Start it here. I'll turn the metronome off because I don't really want to listen to it. Now here's my external input. It's recording down on track 14. It's also going to be recording into the master left and right signal because it is part of the master output along with all of the other drum sounds combined. You can see here's my kick, snare. It doesn't look like anything's playing on these instruments here. But all the other drums are now separated. Something else you can do is use the sidechain. TR8 has an effect called a sidechain, and you're just chaining up, basically ducking the beats or syncing it up otherwise, your external input sound with the drum beat, so you can hear it drop and come back in, fade out. I've got it on full sidechain right now. Here's no sidechain, but it's a gradient knob, so anywhere in between can also be selected. Here's just like a faint effect of sidechain. I'll stop that for now. There's also delays and reverbs and accents within the TR8, and they will show up in your recording through your master left and right signal. So I think I've covered everything now that my video from last year failed to achieve. So anyways, here's my updated video on how to use your TR8 drum machine as its own audio interface for the reason of separating each instrument sound from the machine onto separate recording tracks. That's all for today. Thanks a lot. Check out my other videos.